Hey everyone, I'm Clayfect, and I had a completely different sculpture planned this week. But there was this nagging, whispering voice in my head that kept telling me, "Gotta do a baby Deadpool." And of course I quiet the voice down because I am not a slave to trends and I just wouldn't have it. But it kept going. You hate DC and love Marvel. Except for Harley Quinn because she's awesome. So, you have to do a Marvel character. You have to do Deadpool. And that was a solid argument, I have to give it that. But I had plans and just wouldn't hear of it. But then the voice came a third time. Every artist needs reference photos. So you get to look at one weird spot without feeling guilty. So we are going to make a baby Deadpool. And we're not just going to make a baby Deadpool, but a baby Deadpool riding a unicorn, because why not? This video is going to be a little more disturbing than usual, guys. So settle in, because I think it's time to get started.
He took 100 pounds of clay, and then he said, "Hey, listen, I'm gonna fix this world today, because I know."
The first thing you're going to see me do is building up the armature for our little Deadpool, before I give his little torso some clay. Now, my original plan was making a little baby Deadpool that was holding a unicorn teddy bear. But I had two problems with that. One, the idea is apparently not very original. There are many drawings of a child or baby Deadpool that is hugging a teddy unicorn. And two, Mr. Clayfect. He just wouldn't have it, and he always pushed me to do my very best. So of course he looked at me with those beautiful eyes he has and said, "No, he should be riding on that unicorn. And it shouldn't be a unicorn horse, but a unicorn pony, a fat one." And I just love the idea, but it would be a lot of extra work, so of course I told him no. And of course I ended up doing it anyway. So that is why, when I made the base of the torso, you quickly see me switching to make yet another armature. Now for a fat little pony unicorn. Because like Mr. Clayfect said, "You're Clayfect, you can quickly whip up a unicorn pony." And I don't know about the quickly part, but my ego got to me, so I started working on a unicorn pony. Focusing on building a strong armature because it should hold two sculptures, not one now. Before I start building it up layer by layer, like you see me doing here. When I was somewhat satisfied with the base of the body, I started working on the legs. Or her voluminous butt cheeks, to be more precise, because I needed the butt cheeks to judge how I should make the legs. I was fully aware that I was going to make this chubby, floppy little fantasy creature, but I was also fully determined to make this floppy, chubby little fantasy creature look natural, or at least as natural as a pony unicorn where Deadpool is riding it could look. So I took my time with the behind, and yeah, what you're seeing does look sort of disturbing, but we are making a Deadpool sculpture, so I think it is morally correct. So please enjoy this butt fondling I'm doing. Before I move on to the short stubby legs she was going to have. And yeah, I decided she's a she. And yeah, she is called Kevin. Don't ask questions on that front. Don't judge, okay? It's Kevin, and she is very, very happy with her body. Now, for the front legs, I'm using the same technique as I do with the back legs. The only difference is that instead of making butt cheeks, I'm making shoulders. And instead of making thighs, I'm making chest muscles. But pretty much the same. I just kept stroking and cuddling the creature, like Deadpool wished he could do with Wolverine in his sleep. Now all it needed was some details, before I started tormenting the poor Polybot some more. Now, if you haven't guessed it, I am a nerd and a big Marvel fan, so I have seen the newest Deadpool movie, and I will not give you any spoilers, but I have to say it is the most chaotic, confusing mess of a movie that I have ever seen that is really, really worth seeing. Even if you just are a tiny little bit of a Marvel fan, it is worth seeing. I laughed my butt off. I'm not sponsored or affiliated with Marvel, by the way. I am just a fangirl. Though I wouldn't mind just being a little bit affiliated with Mr. Reynolds. I'm only joking, guys. The only love for me is Mr. Clay Effect. And I have loved that man for 12 years, so I don't think it's about to change. I did warn you though that it was going to be a little bit of a disturbing video this time. Not only with the butt fondling, but also with the jokes and what comes after. We are going full Deadpool style. Or pony style for now. After I made a neck for Kevin, it was time to build up his head. But thanks to no smooth editing transaction on my part, we're going to skip the smoothing part straight to the finished base of the head. With the head base in a sort of acceptable state, I move on to press in some eyes so we can finally start working on this little pony's expression. Now, I wanted little Kevin's expression to yell, even though there was no yelling going on. Get off my back or I will flow you off. But I think it became more of a mumbling expression that he wasn't happy about it. With this whole sculpture, I had so much difficulty getting the right expression of both of them, in fact. But even though I had my problems, I have to say I am very much satisfied with this pinned up, quite fuming emotion for Deadpool I managed to put in Kevin's face. Like she's totally despising him, even though he is just a baby. Or maybe even a toddler. I had to go up a little bit in age, since Deadpool was going to be sitting on the pony. Speaking of, with her expressions in place, we could finally place Kevin's head before we poked a big horn into her face, making her a unicorn. Though I had to admit, until she got her mane, she did look more like a uni-hippo than a unicorn. The horn, the ears and the mane is made out of cosplay, since they were going to be the most exposed of this sculpture. Kevin's luxurious locks is made by rolling clay sausage upon clay sausage and placing it before they got scraped. I just kept repeating the process until he had a do that would make any heavy metal enthusiast proud. But with the mane done, all I had to do was give it a little bit of life before it was off to the oven. And we could finally start working on our little Deadpool. Like I mentioned, getting any emotion across with a character when that character is wearing a freaking mask is difficult, to say the least. Especially when that sculpture also is a toddler, because like many of you know, toddlers have by default very big emotions. So I really had to build up the face just right and get the body language also to scream excitement, because I want this Deadpool to be oh so happy sitting on a unicorn, even though Kevin hates it. He might be the most unfriendly unicorn pony out there. Speaking of unfriendly, me and my good friend Paintfect are actually in a feud right now. She said the most unthinkable thing to me. She admitted that she actually prefers Wolverine instead of Deadpool. Can you believe it? The mutton chop man with all his issues. I just don't know if I can forgive her for that. I think I need to reevaluate our friendship. I'm hurt, just like Kevin probably was hurt when I put a stick in her back and wrapped a thin layer of aluminium foil around her, separating her and Deadpool, making the painting job later on much more easy when I'm able to take him off and on our little pony. And with Deadpool's test ride over, it was time to build up the arms, the legs, and of course, the butt. So while I do that, why don't I tell you a little bit more about Kevin's background story? Because we all know Deadpool's background story, and if you have seen Deadpool 3, then you also would say that this toddler riding a unicorn Deadpool really makes sense. But no one ever asked about Kevin. So I think it's time that we shine a light on her and her background story. So the truth of the matter is that Kevin is an asshole. Has always been one, and are probably always going to be one. As a little fool, Kevin's favorite pastime was to kick over fairies and gnomes. Just for the fun of it, she was actually quite a bit of a bully. The other unicorns were scared of her. Now, I would say that probably stemmed from that she would name Kevin even though she identifies as a her, as someone kept calling her he instead of she, or maybe it was a height issue. There are many reasons to why Kevin could be as she is, but the truth of the matter is she is just actually a little bit of a psychopath. Maybe even a pyromaniac, but that's the into question. All we know for sure is that Kevin just loved to hurt people. And that is why she is such a perfect fit for our Deadpool, because if you have watched any of the movie or read any of the comics, then you know this guy just loved getting hurt. But that is pretty much all there is to say about Kevin and her background story. Now back to the sculpture. Now with the base of the body done, it was finally time to put in some details and make this superhero look cool. First give his mask some details so he could finally start looking like Deadpool, before I moved on to working on the arms. Now with the arms, Deadpool was going to need some tiny hands. But these hands you see me make here is actually too tiny, because when I finally placed them, they looked like he was about to regrow some hands, so to speak. So I had to redo them in a larger size that looked more correctly, before I could start blending them in and then working on the details. Now for research purposes, I did look a lot at Ryan Reynolds' costume, and Deadpool's costume is a very detailed one, but it is made to emphasize the male body, and since we have a toddler, I had to modify a lot of those details. So after I have given our Deadpool the right "yeah" pose, I started working on the gloves and slowly worked my way down the arms with the details. Now, as I said, there was a lot of details, so we are going to skip some of them, because otherwise it would be like a 2-hour long movie and not a YouTube video. I think it was about half of the sculpture making time was actually used on just making details. Now don't you dare judge me on how I placed Deadpool next to Kevin. It is very difficult to place a sculpture so it doesn't get messed up while you cut out shoulder pads. Have you ever tried it? It's a challenge in itself. So I will not hear any judgment. I was busy playing a superhero tailor and gave him some shoulder pads. I worked layer by layer, slowly building the suit up, before I did the exact same things down with the legs. So while I do that, this might be a good time to ask you to please consider like, comment and subscribe if you enjoy what I'm doing. It really does a lot for my channel and make me happy, so why not spread a little good in the world if you like what I'm doing. And of course a huge thank you to all who have done just that. Now remember guys, no judging. it was the most convenient place to put him until he was ready to get some details on his shoes. Now, funny story about the shoes. Remember how I told you how detailed the Deadpool costume was? Well, I had to look at a lot of reference photos to get this suit sort of correctly. But when it came time to the shoes, it was actually very difficult to find any pictures of Deadpool with Deadpool shoes on. But I know why now, because I managed to find one picture, and it actually turned out that it was just a simple sportswear shoe. A black sportswear shoe with some red leather around it. If we go by the movie Deadpool. Now, the comic Deadpool is a whole different story, but I tried to make a mix between the two. In retrospect, maybe I gave a little bit too much thought on this sculpture. Anyway. Now, with the feet done, all we needed to do was place our little guy before we took a crack at the body. Get it? Because there's a crack, there's actually two cracks. Oh, I'm such a child, I will stop now. Let's just focus on me gently stroking the character before we gave him a little Deadpool build. Like so. But no Deadpool is truly a Deadpool without some sort of weapon. So that is why I pulled my cosplay out and started cutting out a knife. And I tried to make a Gordon Ramsay Hell's Kitchen knife because I thought it would be funny, and I don't know why, but I pictured that watching Gordon Ramsay cook is one of Deadpool's guilty pleasures. Ooh, quick sculpting tip for ya. It is very difficult to make anything fabricated, but if you think about how it's made and why, then it's much easier to construct something that look alike. Or at least that's what I'm doing when I'm trying to make something that's non-organic. Anyway, with the last details on, the two of them just needed a little trip to the oven before we could start working on the paint. Well, now you're probably thinking, why are those colors clay effect? Since a unicorn is basically white and Deadpool is black and red, shouldn't there be like 3 colors? And my answer to you is yes. Yes, there should only be about 3 to 4 colors. But I'm married to a charming devil spawn that looked at me and said, "Shouldn't unicorns' hair be rainbow colored, honey?" So yeah, after the 2 base coats are down, please enjoy this montage of me struggling with a rainbow hippo. You know, I try not to complain. But when blending all those colors, front and back of the hair, not even to mention the tail, is really a task. Yeah. Oh! The montage! Sorry, please continue! So now with the wet blending basically done, I put Kevin over to dry before we could finally start working on what we came here for, Deadpool. Not to neglect Kevin at all, but as I said, he is a bit of an asshole. And our Toddler Deadpool needs some speed paint in all the crevices to give him some dimension. When that was done, I painted him yet again, making sure that it was a fresh blood color he had and not old blood lying around. Now, compared to Kevin, Deadpool was definitely the easiest one to paint, but it also was a little bit boring, not to complain. But it is a lot of black and red, and that's basically it. Though I must admit, I was very happy when I finally started putting the black down, because I think that was the point. It really looked like Deadpool. Another thing, editor, please zoom out. I will acknowledge in that clip that there is a pencil in my mouth while I'm painting. I don't know why, but it is. Remember, this is a safe space without any judgment. And if I need a pencil in my mouth, so be it. Don't take this out of context. Let's instead get back to the sculpture, where I moved from black to a cozy leather brown for his strap across the chest. Before we proceeded to paint the Gordon Ramsay knife in yet 2 other variants of brown. Now I was a bit of a rebel and painted his belt buckle in a metallic red. Yeah. But after that craziness was over, I moved on to paint the eyes in a classical white, before I moved on to yet another pair of smaller eyes and painted them white too. But with all the white and the red, the black and the brown done, all I had to do was give him some dark metallic details before we could cast our sight on Kevin yet again. Putting the last details on him with a fleshy pink color, before we moved on to his majestic horn that got a pure gold color in true unicorn style. All that was left to do now was clean some eye gunk out, and it was finally time, guys. And with him in place, I think that is it for this sculpture and it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you like our little Toddler Deadpool and Kevin. I will stop praising myself, but I think it came out super cool. When I'm going to make this year's roundup, I'm really going to have trouble because it's fucking awesome. Deadpool baby riding a unicorn. Come on! You got to think that is cool. But with that being said, guys, it is unfortunately time for me to sign off. I hope to see you next time, but if you can't wait until next time, why not click on the square to your right? Then you're going to meet Mr. Clefect, me, and a dragon. It's fun. But until then, bye!